Welcome to the Raise Up Mindset podcast with your hosts, Charlie and Athena Graham.
Welcome back to the Raise Up Mindset podcast. We are so happy that you joined us today, and we're talking about some very interesting leadership topics. And really, for those of you who have not checked us out or looked at our library, we are just offering these little tidbits of leadership that Charlie and I have discovered along the way in our entrepreneurial journey. And we're hoping that it just helps you in your quest to become a stronger leader or to dial in your entrepreneur skills. So welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
So you and I have been talking about this idea of leadership through service, how showing up changes everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to show up solid. I mean, it's important to show up for your team solid, your partner solid, your company. I mean, it's important. I mean, it's there. It's a lot sometimes. When I say it's a lot, like you have this platform of all these employees that are here to work, and then they also have problems going on in their lives and vehicles and everything that's going on. So it's just sometimes it's a little bit much. Sometimes it gets to be where we are able to figure out things and help people, but also it's sometimes it's just a lot of people coming at you at 200 plus employees that you have it, and so we are people that usually are ones that make answers and help people with problems they have because they figure that we have it all figured out. And, we are on the job training sometimes figuring this out too, more or less our company, our lives, but trying to help them navigate through anything that they're doing too. So showing up for service and control, sometimes it's not all about the company. Sometimes it's about the employees and about the actions of things that happen throughout the day. It's overwhelming sometimes. Very overwhelming.
Yeah, what comes up for me in this is you have to decide how you're going to show up before stuff happens. And taking that position really matters, because if you decide that you're going to show up and you're going to stay regulated regardless of what's coming at you, then what does that look like, and how do you need to treat yourself in order to be able to do that? Burning the candle at both ends, it doesn't really work. You are more reactive when you're in survival mode. So I think it really starts there, is how are you showing up for yourself so that you can show up for others, so that those feelings of being overwhelmed don't overtake you, or you don't have these negative thoughts of, I just have to have all the answers, when the truth is, no, you don't. Like Charlie mentioned, we oftentimes are figuring it out in stride while we're walking towards the outcome that we're looking for. And I think that can make all the difference when you are putting an amplifier on crazy or not participating in the crazy so that others can kind of settle down. And I think we had a social media incident that kind of could have started to get a little nuts, and then it kind of, there was some readjustment and it simmered back down. But when we all jump in and to the frenzy, it will just build the frenzy.
Yeah, I agree. It's whenever your organization gets to a certain size, things fester a little bit more. And as it gets bigger, it festers a little bit more. And your span of control is only so much. Mm-hmm. And you got to realize that we're just sometimes not in control. We're just leading the ship, and we have to have our team members be in control. And so it's a delicate balancing act is how I figure it out. But, Athena made a good point. We don't have to have all the answers. We just try to help people navigate through some of the answers. And we take our experience and our mod that we've had running the company for 26 years now, and then being alive as long as we have, to try to help them with educated things. But, we're in a different world these days. We are in, I've been having these conversations with other business owners and other people, and we're in just a different world. It's the world that we grew up, the world our parents grew up, and the world that our kids are growing up are three different parallel universes that are just not completely the same. It's like the kids these days are the computers and the games, and they could be in their room for 12 or 14 hours and not see them throughout the day is interesting. I remember as a kid growing up, and then my mom would have a family tree of phone calls to find where I was at, going through my best friends' houses all the way down to the people I've only hanged out with some time, and just to find you throughout the day. And now it's not that way whatsoever. So
now we get to track them on their phones.
we can track them, or we know where they're at, or what they're doing, or how much time they're spending on their phones, or what's going on here now. So, when you talk about showing up, we're showing up the best as possible. But again, it's like we don't understand. I remember talking to my dad when I was 16 and talking to him about life things are going on, and he didn't really have a clue what I saw through my lens and what he saw through his lens. So I see that on both sides sometimes, as that when somebody's talking to me about something, I look at them like I have no concept of what they're talking about, because they're 17 or 18 years old, and it's a different world than when I was at 17 or 18. So you try to give them the best educated advice that we could give, and it might not even be parallel to them. I mean, what makes sense to us is not going to make sense to them. So with our kids, the same ways, they can't be on time for something, but boy, you put a timeline on something that the store's going to open at a certain time, and you need to go pick up something, and they're 3.5 hours, 5 hours early, but they can't make it to work on time in that 10 o'clock area or the 11 o'clock area because something else happened. So it's all about, I think, sometimes just the choices that you make, starting off late at work, or getting here late, or whatever else it is. I think we all choose that sometimes, and then there's the unfortunate accidents or something that happens on the way in that delays you, and those are acceptable things. But it's just a different world. We are in the healthcare field too. Part of BAC and AMT is the healthcare field. And I look at the people that are taking care of people now in the healthcare field. And you have a lot of people that when we drop off at these ALFs, assisted living facilities or things like that, that they have two people that maybe barely speak English. They're maybe under 100 pounds. They're taking care of all these larger patients and people, and the capacity, they mean well, but it doesn't look well. And as
somebody felt they probably wouldn't be able to help them,
they would be calling probably 911 to probably get a lift assist. The other part of that is that volunteers and people that really want to do stuff tomorrow has been declining. So when you look at like showing up at work, we still have to show up here every day as best as possible for our team to make sure that they know that they're on the right path and what they're doing is good too. And then we just redirect sometimes, but it is a different world. And I remember talking to my parents about this, and it's so interesting because I remember my dad just saying, hey, this is the way things work in this world. I'm like, well, maybe in your time, but not in our time. And now we're in our time, we're getting in our 50s, and you understand life a little bit differently. So it's a very complex jigsaw sometimes of coming to work and doing business. And then you have some of the people that are younger generation that are booking vehicles with us, and we have the people that literally like to make a phone call and talk to somebody on the phone, and they really want to get a reservation, they want to get a number, and they want to get all this stuff, kind of like I am. And then you have the people that just want to book it online. They don't want to ever talk to you or see you or hear you, and they just want to make sure it's on time, and they don't want to talk to anybody, and they're on their phone the whole time. So again, you have to show up sometimes in all different fields for every different demographic. I mean, it really is. It's definitely different. And then with the world being the way it is right now, with the chaos between everything else is going, it even sometimes make it a little bit more difficult. Like, are we going to have a lot of visitors in Alaska this year because we're still having problems in Europe or Asia or other places? Does it mean Alaska is going to be popping off again this summer? Are we still in the top 5? Or are we now looking at that we've expensed ourselves out, and now people are looking at going over to different places in the world that are they can get more bang for their dollars. So the economical and the what's going on with our government and things like that really has a lot to do with what we're doing with our business also, how we're trying to redirect. So
what I'm hearing from you is that there's so many layers to showing up.
Yeah, some of these questions
it's not just you showing up as a leader, it's you also noticing the patterns of how others are showing up and how you need to take that into consideration.
Yeah. I mean, I think our kids are our biggest reminders. Like, they show up so many different ways all the time, like what's important to them and what's important to us. Like, they would like to think they can make it out without us, but then when we leave, they're wondering when we're coming home. They want us to be around there, but I think it's the security factor of what they like. I think the same thing with sometimes of our employees, that they really love to enjoy running the company and helping with it, but they get in those fixes where they need to have somebody else that's going to guide them through it. And I think that's where we get contacted if it goes past the GM or one of those other levels, is just because we've had so much time and experience into it. I just had a phone call a few minutes ago from Barbie, like a trip going up to Fairbanks, and it turned out to be a little bit more than what they can do, and they couldn't fly there. So we were able to negotiate a rate to get them up there because it's middle of the winter right now, and we can afford it. We have the extra vans, so we might not make as much money on that trip, but it's still a good revenue making trip, and so it made sense. But of course, when she's given up money that we would have possibly made, she didn't want to make that decision without talking to us because it was over a certain dollar amount. So I appreciate that, but and the other hand on my side is I got to look at it as like, should we really count on that $360 per hour on a middle of a February trip when it's not as busy during the summertime? So we can make allowances and different things. So I appreciate that they came to us with that and talked to us about it, instead of saying, no, we couldn't do that, because then that would have been a less of a sale that we would have done. So
Yeah, and also what I'm hearing is you're talking about how we're allowing our services to show up depending on the seasons. And so this layer of how showing up changes everything. It can reduce your revenue, it can increase your revenue, and it sounds to me like you are going a little deeper in the whole, like, looking at how the different generations are showing up in this season of life.
Well, so when we're looking at the different generationals, you look at we have people from 16 years old that help at DGM and do some stuff here, all the way up until their 70s. And we might even have some people in their 80s that work here. So what does that look like for us? Now we have generations that are well above us, that are a couple decades above us. And then we have other generations that are far 3 or 4 decades below us. So what does that look like? So it's like, you have all these nationalities, you have all these different personalities, you have all these different people that you have to show up, and then you have to understand what's going on in their life too. So it's a delicate balancing act.
So what I also think you're saying is that to be a leader that has like maybe a mid-sized team, there's showing up creates all of these, like, you have to understand all of these different dynamics. Backgrounds, ethnicity, age groups, like the layers are bigger than it seems like they were, if that makes sense.
And if you look at it, like Athena and I don't work in the business as, when I say in it, like we're not helping drive vehicles all the time and things like that, but there is days that we end up jumping in and helping. I'll take, just for instance, we've been short on medics lately, so I still keep my medic license. So I've been helping this last week pull some different shifts, a 24-hour shift, a 14-hour shift, things like that here. But one thing I do notice is when we do go out and work with the team, especially when we're asking them to work a lot of overtime, they're asking them to cancel plans and do some things. I think it's good when they see us that are here, that we're end up jumping in and helping and making sure things run smoothly. I could tell you that the teams have been very good about me coming in and helping with them and doing some stuff, and they really like it. And we put some posts out on it, and we had a couple of the medics like, hey, it's so cool to see the boss come out and actually jump in involved too. And then, when we're going to the hospitals, they know who we are and things like that, and then they smile because they see us walk in the door. And it's funny is because I saw some anomalies that were not so great in it, and I see it immediately, like, I can't believe we have these phones from 6 years ago that has a home button. Like, it took me like 10 minutes to figure out how to use the home button on the iPhone, because that's how our phones are from 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago. We got these phones. So it was funny just looking at those things and seeing how archaic some of this stuff was. I'm like, okay, we need to make some changes here. We need to have something that's a little bit more updatable. We have some apps that won't even update anymore because the phone's so old. So it's just interesting when you jump into the seat, and just like when we tell our drivers, jump in the back seat and see what the passenger is going to see. When you're getting ready to go pick up somebody in a black car, jump in the back seat, look at everything around the ground, the floor, make sure the water's proper, make sure the label's forward, all that other stuff that you want to see what the customer sees when you first walk in the door. And the same thing with the ambulance, same thing with our company. They want to see your best foot forward. When you walk in and you're dressed appropriately, you're looking appropriately, you're asking the right questions, there is an instill of confidence of they hired somebody that was good and it's going to take care of them. And when you have their most precious family, or they're doing a road trip from here to Seward on the most dangerous part of the highway or whatever else it is, they want to know that you're on your A game. They don't want to have you showing up sloppy and talking on the phone and playing with your GPS.
And they distracted.
Yeah, it's all about keeping them nice and calm and easy. And sometimes teaching that to some of the different groups is there. I don't really have to teach that to our older people. They've already been instilled with that. Their parents instilled that with them. They're usually 90% all great there. They don't have those problems. They already know what it is to be hardworking. When you look at some of the younger people, sometimes they might be worried about deadlines and times and things like that, and just don't understand it as much. So again, showing up and what is convenient or looking, or services and controls, I mean, those are all things that we have to look at every single day, putting the right driver with the right person. I mean, we've had people that we've put like our best, greatest driver, and they put them with somebody that was a complete, not the person we should have put them with. I mean, because they didn't align. They didn't align their values. It didn't mean that they were, either one of them were bad people. It just means that they just didn't click. So sometimes when I ask the customer, especially when we get some super VIPs that come inside, they're like, hey, who am I dealing with? What's this person like? What's going on with them? Is there some education you can give us that we can put the best driver possible? Sometimes it's a female, sometimes it's a male. Sometimes they have requests. We get some superstars that come up here, and they're in the sports world, and they say no female drivers whatsoever. It has to be all male drivers. So the understanding of why that is happening, so we can service that client the best possible. So it's always interesting. It's I put a post out the other day and said that, I really enjoy my job here, and I like it because I get to pick and choose kind of stuff I want to do and help with. But some days I don't have that choice to pick and choose. Sometimes I have to be that person. I'm the first person out the door, the last person out the door, if it comes up now or it's immediate or we need somebody to go out and take care of it. And so you always have to be kind of ready to go.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to, there's like a group of employees where we're teaching them how to come back to the present moment. Like, let's just take a look. How does your uniform look? What's the projection? Like you're saying, are we projecting confidence? Are we projecting this professionalism? And when people are distracted, or they're on their phones, or they're not actually like fully engaged in what we're doing here, it shows. And when we're not fully engaged what we're doing here, it shows. You don't have the information that you're looking for. If you're going into your office and you feel like you don't have answers to questions that are important to you, then it's like, what level of engagement do you need to step into in order to actually start closing the loop on some of those? I feel like that is it's almost like a signal, an internal signal, where if there are things that you are feeling like you're out of the know, and it is your business, it is your department, it is your family, then at what level do you want to step into engagement on? And if not, if you're somebody who's actually like you're on your retirement and you're headed out the door, then maybe there is less engagement that you're in. But I think at the end of it, if we're communicating with our team that's with us on what the expectation is, then everybody wins. And I think the communication piece is the key to showing up. When we had our leadership meeting today, Charlie and I are going to be out of town for about 4 days or 5 days, something like that. And it's reminding them, hey, we have, here's some information. We're going to be out of town. This is when we're going to be back. And it's not just, oh, by the way, we're leaving today. See you later. So we're showing up with information constantly to allow people to make their own choices and to stay in alignment with us.
That's very well said.
I would say, how can we lead people to becoming more present? Especially like you mentioned, we have teenagers all the way up to 70 plus people that are working here. And when I feel like that is a big part of what we continually do here, is we keep reminding them, how are we showing up and what's the service we're delivering? We talk about uniforms and why they're important. We talk about accurate documentation, why that's important. And all of that is an aspect of showing up.
I agree. think one of the most difficult things that we do is the accurate documentation. And I say that just because the way our system goes is when you go to pick up a person, you put on the way, you put on location, you put customer in car, you put all this stuff. Very easy, simple tasks, but it's sometimes it's easy to forget because your customer asks you a bunch of questions and you get off the bar and then you get distracted or things like this, and then you try to make it right, and then you put on location, customer car in there, and it's all at the same time. So like 511, he did everything, but it's 40 miles away. Like it's impossible.
Yeah.
So it's our teaching to the drivers, like, hey, you have to have a habit. You have to have, when you get in the car and you get the person in it, before you put in drive, you have to put customer in car. And then when you get to the place that you're going to, before you unbuckle your seatbelt and you put it in park, you put customer arrived at location, and you put end of trip, and you get the information you do, because it's important for us in our documentation that we're looking at. It's like, were we on time? Did we get the person dropped off in time? Tracking our KPIs. And if we're not tracking them, and then all of a sudden we're at 60%, and we're looking at it saying, well, how is this even possible? Then when you see that the drivers don't do that correctly, it affects it. And so then we got to go back and fix it. And I think that's with a lot of things. And these are very simple processes, and we just have to fine tune them a little bit. It's funny is when you put a bonus or a incentive to it, seems like they can all make it happen, like 99%. But when you take it away, it's like these people forget, and it's not we forget it. We run these experiments sometimes, or these different promotions things, to let people know that they can do it, and it's not that hard. You just have to be intentional, and then when you're not intentional, of course, it can just slip away. So then we have coachings, and we have write-ups, and then we have things that we have to do for people to get them back on the track, and it's
nothing works like a solid incentive, though. Like,
I tell you what.
I'll tell you, it is like a whole new human shows up.
Hurts your pocketbook than just giving away money for something that you feel like that they should already be doing. And I guess this is where I come back as an old school person. It's like, you have a job and you're paid to do it, and you accepted that salary, you accepted that hourly, and you know what you're making per hour. What's the difference if you do it correctly or you do it incorrectly at the time? I mean, why not be the best that you can so you can get promoted to be able to drive contractor trips, that you get us to put the incentive to put the CDL behind you. But if you can't cross the T's and dot the I's, then why are we going to put the effort into it? Now we're going to be looking at how can we replace that person, because we've had 5 incentives and talks with them and they just can't get it. And how can we make it more easy for them to make it happen? We've switched people's schedules. We've done so many different things, because if you have a good employee, you want to keep them. But if you have a person that's not so great and they're just barely hanging on, what's that look like to the rest of the staff that's killing it? And so I guess I have always been this kind of bleeding heart person that wanted to see this person make it through. We're going to make it. We got 3 years invested in this person, and I should have probably cut them 2 years ago. And and the only reason they were still there for the 3 years is because I saw something in them. And you know what? And there's a few people have made it, and there's a few people that we can say that have gone through it, and people have complained of being at managers' offices, and they're great people. They have to be understood a little bit differently, and there's some people that we should have just cut loose like the first month. Like, there should have been some tales about this. And you got to admit, after COVID, finding employees was tough. And now in 2024, it just started coming back to where people want to come back to work, because federally funding and everything else was done, and they weren't getting money to sit at home anymore. So shoot, we got to get a job. And so we started getting that, but I think it's going to take a little bit longer to get some of those people back into the habit of like, hey, there's no more free lunches, there's no more free meals, there's no more free cash, and we have to go back to work. I mean, like, everything costs money to survive in this world. There's food, there's rent, there's gas, there's utilities, there's entertainment, and there's got to be a slush fund afterwards. And when you're just hanging on to that barely, it's you feel like you're looking down in the bottom of a tunnel, looking up, and you don't see a way out. I was talking to somebody today, one of my best friend's dads, and just trying to encourage him to take some steps, take some walks, do some stuff like this, because we want to see him around for a lot more years to come.
Move your body a little.
So we got to move your body. So I was like, hey, let's get this jetted tub where you'll be water up to your waist, you'll be no weight bound, and you'll be able to walk in there without feeling like you're tired. And if for something ever happened, you could just lay in the water and float. I mean, you're only in this like little bathtub treadmill thing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, it's a great idea, but it's us. So, I mean, we can always find excuses why not to do it. It's the courage of doing it. And I think that's where we have to, is go into the courage. Like, he can sit back and just live out the rest of his life just barely making it, or he can try to make a difference and live for another 2 to 7 to 10 years or whatever else it might be. But they got to make that choice. So sometimes we can't make the choice for them. We can only guide them into the right area, and then hopefully they make the right choice. I can't be this person's bugging him all the time and talking to him saying, hey, I need you to do this today, do this today, but I can give some words of encouragement.
Yeah, and I think that when we have the information of this is actually moving the needle, how do we bridge the gap to like bringing that information in? Like you said, your friend's dad, he has the information in his brain that if he moves his body, he knows that he will feel better eventually, and that it'll probably prolong his life and extend his like overall health. But it's crossing over the bridge of actually doing the action. And I think you said it really good, is we have found kind of the golden ticket to motivating behavior by doing these gamify things that we do, and like getting some focus around an incentive for the team member. But it's like there's still this story that's hanging around for a lot of leaders on why are they just this way, like back in my day, and they go into this whole story when it's like we know what motivates them. Why can't we just be talking more about focusing in on what motivates this particular person? And for your friend's dad, it might be his grandchildren coming to visit him.
Sure.
Like we just have to find that motivation and then not be in denial, or even if we don't agree with the motivation, it still doesn't make it not true. So if we know, like our daughter, for instance, she asked if I would pony up $19 for this like smoothie thing that she wants last night. And I texted her back and I'm like, what are you going to do for me? And it's not about you have to do something for me. It's putting it in her court that there's a reciprocation here. And our laundry room is upstairs by their space, is almost entirely consumed by her clean laundry.
I say our laundry room. It's more like their laundry room.
It is their laundry room.
Yeah, we have our own laundry room. We chose to keep our own separate from theirs.
Which was a very smart move, and I think
100%.
we duplicate that for the next time.
Yes.
But so this laundry room has all of her stuff there, and I'm like, yeah, I will. She goes, well, what do you want? And I'm like, I want the laundry room to look like it did before you moved in.
I think we actually, in the future, we just put laundry rooms in their closet, and then they can just do their clothes as they're going throughout the day, and then it's in their room.
It's so close to their bedrooms,
It is.
it's ridiculous. And it's not both of them, it's just one.
I know.
So with that being said, it's like, okay, so she gave me something that I knew she wanted that was healthy for her, and I'm happy to encourage her about that. But also, it's okay to like have this reciprocating piece, and she agreed to it. She agreed to it. So
what was the agreement?
The agreement was that she's going to clean the laundry room by Thursday if we buy her that smoothie.
Well,
tomorrow's Thursday.
We'll see what happens.
But she said the smoothie place was closed yesterday, so I have a feeling that she'll kick in for going to the smoothie place today. But the point of it is it's like, if you see something that starts to shift, if you are noticing something that your team really wants, how can you meet them there? How can you bring some hype around it? It may be something that you're totally not interested in. I mean, look at the whole thing that the younger kids are into right now with that K-pop Demon Hunter song, Golden. Oh my gosh, it's like
No idea what she's
do you
talking about.
remember Elsa and the whole Let It Go song, and how many times we heard that sing over and over again because of our daughter being that age group? Well, now that is that version, is this next character. And so it's like, if our 10-year-old granddaughter loves Golden, like if we were motivating her in a certain way, we could include that. And so it's like kind of dialing into, what are some of these things? Like, how can we be showing up in these new ways, and maybe take down some of these old stories that we have about we just don't understand this generation or that generation, and start running some experiments. Like, that's something that we do quite often.
It's a Rubik's Cube. We're definitely always moving the pieces.
Yeah, but it's not just leadership at work. It's what do we want in our lives? Like how do we want to show up and have actual action behind that that's aligned with the words we're saying? If we want to be a healthier person, are we having aligned action with that? Because that's showing up not just at home, it shows up when you're leading your team.
I agree. Sometimes it's a little difficult, I think, as you get older, is that you try to, the attention span that we get from them sometimes is just a little bit less. And you wish that they would just hear you. There's a great, it was on Facebook, it was a great thing. It says, your kids think the world of you when you're up to these age and dad knows everything and mom knows everything and everything. And then when they get in their teenage years, they don't know nothing. And then it goes up until their 20s and 30s. And then they're like, well, hey, let's call mom or dad and ask them what their opinion is. Like, it changes. And then they're wanting there. And then they agree that you have knowledge and things that you could help them with. But I think it was their growth pattern too. And I think the employees are a lot like that too. It's their growth patterns, like how they've grown from where they're at when they started to where they're at now and how they've affected their lives. I mean, you look at some of our employees, like Junior came up to me this year and said, hey, boss, I remember when you told me I can make this amount of money and I've done it for the last 3 years past this thing. Thank you for what you've done for my family and stuff. And I said, I didn't do it. You did it all. I mean, I told you where you could go and what you could do, and you made it happen. So it wasn't me that made it happen. It was the idea I put in his head that he could be making this kind of salary per year, and he motivated himself and had him do it. And so it's sometimes just putting that thought in their head and letting them stew on it. Sometimes you don't have to tell them all of it. Sometimes I think it's a little bit better if you leave a little bit of it out of it there, because then they have to complete the puzzle.
Give me an example of that.
Well, like telling this one person that he can make 6 figures a year being a driver. He didn't see it happen in his head. But I told him with overtime and with some of the bigger trips and getting a CDL and doing some other things that he could be making easy 6 figures. And it doesn't even count all the tips and everything else that he would get on top of that. So he kind of took it to heart and picked up overtime shifts and picked up these. And, he became one of our best drivers and people requested for him. And I said, when you have people for requests, you're the top person on there if you're on. So he took it within himself to figure out the pieces that he needed to make it happen, and now they are. And they're doing more vacations, they're doing more family vacations, him and his wife, and things like that. So it's been a great positive experience for them and their family, and it's put them into a different level.
Yeah.
So I look at those things and saying that that's part of it. Talking to our kids about just keeping the house clean and keeping the place snow plowed. And I mean, I'm out there pushing the snowblower too and doing it and showing them that, hey, what I'm asking you to do is not nothing I wouldn't do myself. So I guess showing them and not just telling them.
Yeah, I would say there's some things that maybe it doesn't make sense for you to do a training on with a person who's in your organization because you don't do reservations or something like that. But it's like showing up and being engaged, and then also demonstrating what it means to not be part of the drama, or encourage them to step forward into a new capability that maybe they don't see for themselves right now. But you're like, you have the ability to do this if you choose it for yourself. It's there available to you. I would say it's a challenge to do all of this if you're constantly putting yourself in a high pressure environment though. And what I mean by high pressure environment is you're allowing your schedule to run you over, you're allowing your workload to run you over, because you're constantly feeling like you are chasing the clock. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like you have to understand that there's some things that you cannot do if you're going to be able to stay in this higher perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to run the company when you're doing the day-to-day operations and doing the driving. And, I had a different thought process 10 years ago is like, I want to be out there with the drivers to help them, to see what's going on, to make sure the right decisions on there. And slowly but surely, it took time for myself as an owner to realize that that's not the position I am, or I should be put in a reservation. It's like a lot of people are like, they give me shit about, like, I can't believe you don't want to put a reservation. It's like, I know to put a reservation in, but am I going to do it the best? Am I going to get 100% on it, or am I going to hit 80% on it? One way or another, the reservation's getting in. I just might not get all the information better than somebody else will, but it's sometimes just easier for me to hand it off to a person that's much more qualified and can put this stuff together and make it happen. There's a lot of times that, and I say this is the old boy method of like the napkins and the contracts being written on the back of a napkin, and then we kind of put it on paper later. Those still exist. There's still that generational group that still wants to sit down and have that conversation, and let's do it, and let's work it out on us talking about it first, but then let's put it on paper. And there's some other people that would never even consider doing that. Like they don't want to ever see you, talk to you,
They want
be
a
around
Zoom
you.
call and they're not on camera.
Yeah, they're not on camera and they don't want to be there, and they're just, and they're just crossing the T and dotting the I and just making sure everything's there. And it's not like they're doing a bad job. It's just the way that they process and how to do things. And so it does, the generations do. And as you get a little older, you just realize that it doesn't have to be just done one way. There could be multiple different ways it's being done. You just have to have it done in a way that it makes sense and the rest of the team can follow it too.
Yeah.
Just because I have this idea of my head the way it should be done, it isn't. Just like in the meeting today, you said, hey, we haven't switched times and done this because this is the way we've done it forever. It doesn't mean that it has to be this way forever. It just means at the time, it didn't make sense for us. How do we reinvest our time that we are doing it in a way that we're not tanking our KPIs because we've always had it this way of doing it this way. As we know that airlines are not always on time, that we need to make adjustments for ourselves to make sure that we are setting our team up for success.
And I think just making that statement to the team where just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean it's right for the now. And if we need to shift, if it makes sense, especially how we track data these days, then it makes sense. So it's just a reminder. And I think like you and I give each other reminders all the time on just all kinds of things where it's not meant to be this like, hey, you need to know this. It's more like, hey, thanks for reminding me. Like that was a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think there's a lot more on this topic you could talk about on everything, but you have to trust your judgments. There was somebody else. It was, I'm redoing my, certifications for my EMS license, and one of the questions on there, it's not always way it's been done. Is how is it being done now? CPR has changed 3 million times since the art of CPR, and it's not because they want to trip people up. It's because they found a way of doing it better, and that's what we're always looking for: is how can we do it better? What is the most survival rate out of this? And I use EMS terms, survival rate, but same thing with our company. It's like we can't. As a new person comes into management and a new person comes inside, they see things a total different way than the last person that's been doing it for 25 years. And now we're 26 years into BAC, and we're seeing those changes all the time. But sometimes we want to revert back to like, this made sense at this time. Why can't we make it happen this way again? And it's a big game of Jenga sometimes. You're just refitting the pieces to make it work. And we want to get rid of those last 4 bottom levels so we can get down to the bottom level again. And it's just always reinventing the wheel. And the wheel is good. It's still spinning, but how can we make it spin better?
Yeah, and I would say that allowing that safe place to be in a feedback loop with those people that are helping you steer things, or even the people that are giving you feedback from the front line, like that's how we need to show up as leaders. We have to be a safe place for people to give us feedback. And so how do you do that? And I think for me, it's staying curious. Like instead of getting judgment around, people will be like, oh, well, I'm not judging you about that. And it's like, you can feel that vibe a mile away. And so it's like, how do you come to a place of true, genuine curiosity where it's like, I just want to understand. I'm not here to like tell you the right or wrong way. I just want to understand what the thought process was to get to that end piece. And because that's information for me on how I communicate with others in that position or decisions that we make down the road. And I'm genuinely curious about probably 99% of the questions that I'm asking. And showing up in that way, you're coming in. So tell me more about that. Like when you were driving down the road, what was going on? Instead of what were you thinking? Like, how could you have even done something like this? I think it matters. It really does. And when we're using that approach, whether it's family members, team members, or even working through a challenge with a call center person where you're trying to like make a payment on your credit card and you've been passed around. It's about noticing how you're showing up and how can you receive information more clearly. And usually if we're coming unhinged or we're throwing in judgment or we're putting off this vibe like, I can't believe you made this decision, that shuts down the flow of information and the feedback loop is not there.
It's tough sometimes. As an owner, you're expecting that they want to follow after what you would do. And normally, when you ask the questions, you could see where they deviated from where you would have gone. And you're like, okay, well, is this something I would have done? Is this something that you would think that the company would have done or done something like this? And then when you get on like, well, I thought about it and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have. You should probably listen to your first things. I mean, one of the things I was talking about with the CMEs and doing the things is like, we overthink it sometimes. And the first answer is usually the correct answer. It's like, you go back and like, oh, was that the correct answer and stuff? And sometimes I'll make a mark by it, like a little star of the one I really wanted to pick, but I picked this other one because I thought it was, they added one more procedure onto it, and then I go back and it was the first one. And it's like, if your spider senses go off and this person's not good or something's not going up or the operation's not going well, you should probably go with that. Like if you think I'm going to second guess this, then, either call me and ask me or trying to figure out what would I not second guess. Another great person told me is like, hey, if it's legal, ethical, and it's a right thing to do and it's customer service, it's not immoral, I'll always have your back. I mean, you don't have to call and ask me permission. I mean, but you have to check mark all 5 of those things. And if there's one check mark, like it's illegal, then we're probably not going to do it. If it's immoral, let's not do this. If it's not the right thing to do, it's not customer service, let's not do this. But when you check all 5 of those things and, circumstances come up, make it happen, Tell us about it later and tell us why you made those 5 decisions on there and why you did the way you did it, Well, usually 99% have always your back on it. Just don't bring me something that was illegal and then say, well, this is the reason I did it. Well, okay, well, it's still illegal. I mean, it's still illegal. So just working with your team. And like I said, when you get 100 plus employees, then you get up to 200, then our biggest max, we're close to 300 employees. It's a lot of people that you are maintaining and personalities in there. And I always think it's like a big sitcom like Cheers. Like everybody has their seat at the table and everybody's there and Norm drinks this beer, but again, that's our company, it's our life. Drivers like to drive certain vehicles, drivers like to work this, they want to turn their paperwork in this way and this stuff like this. Sometimes just sitting them, hey, I remember when we were at 54th Street, I have one employee that just tells me how much they miss 54th because we were a smaller group, we were 50, 60 employees and we're 30 cars back then, 20, 30 cars. And it was lots more manageable. We were doing more barbecues, we were more personable. But when you start getting 200 or 300 people, it's hard to have that span of control with just 20 or 30 people that you always see all the time. I always tell myself I'd be the perfect boss the undercover boss, because sometimes I don't know a lot of the employees that get hired, they get shipped off to the airport or one of the other places, and I only meet them a couple times, 2 or 3 times a year. Bad on me. I should be going over and meeting all those people and they should know who the face is. That's funny is because in orientation, there's a picture of me. It lets people know who I am, and I'll see CSAs that look at. I'll see our ambassadors at the airport, and they'll look at me, and then they'll talk to somebody else. I'm like, is that Charlie? And stuff like this, and then they'll talk about it, and they're like, hey, boss, how are you? And I'm like, hey, good. How are you guys? I wanted to go talk to them. But recognition to those people. I mean, they see the success that we've done in our company and where we're at, and they're looking to see where they're going to be successful in their life and how they're going to be able to afford to have a family and take care of their kids and do things and have a retirement. And these are all real things. So
yeah, for sure.
It's interesting. You could talk about things like this all day long, but what are you going to do to make a difference in your company? What are you going to do to make a difference in your culture your family, your life, your husband, wife life? I mean, where are the boundaries you're willing to go, and where are you allowed to bend? I mean,
And what are some of those stories that you've been telling yourself in your leadership role that it's time for them to leave because the
They probably should
data
have
is
been gone a long
showing
time
you
ago.
the data is showing you what's working and what's not working, and so it's embracing that.
And I feel that the day of us just putting bodies in there, and I say this because of COVID, and I know I bring back up COVID. I know it's been 6 years since COVID was really there, but there was really people that are just putting bodies in to fill positions because they didn't have enough people. And we're not that company. We're not there.
We're not looking for NPCs.
No, we're not looking for people that are just looking to punch a clock.
Yeah.
We're looking for people that are invested in us as we invest into them.
Yeah, and who really align with our Raise Up core values and our GOAT goals. So,
what's our longest employee that we have right now? Is it 14 years, or what's the longest person we've had on so far in the 20 years that we've been here? 26 years?
I think it's 12 years.
Is it 12? I thought it was 14, but 12 years for a company like that, and we have quite a few employees who are like
And we
that.
have a few people that are just like approaching the 10 or over the 10. Yeah.
Currently we don't have one of the contracts that we had before at the airport, and we were recently just at the airport, and we were talking to some of the people, and they asked if we're coming back. They asked that they have been doing more pushes and more things and more work than they've ever had to do before we were there, and it's interesting to see the reaction of them. They're like really wanting us to come back. And, some of these people that we've worked with have really been scrutinized, and they've scrutinized us and do some things, and they just don't realize, that we were only given so many people. But I get to that whole scene is like, it's funny is you think the grass is greener sometimes on the other side, and if you just pick a new company, everything's going to be great, and then you realize that, wow, I have to work with a whole new company that has different ethics and groups. And our employees, I came downstairs to go grab my bags, and my wife was in the car, and we usually don't check our bags, but we checked some bags on the way we came back from Thailand. And when I went to check my bags, 3 of my ambassadors came over that are now with the other company, said, "Boss, if you ever reopen back up, we would leave in a heartbeat." I mean, it's just, they don't feel the culture, they don't feel the love, they don't feel like the area for them to have a locker rooms or a place to do a break or things like this. It is a total different culture, and they were in a position that they took the job because it was comfortable and it was easy for them to transition. They offered them a position, but they're not happy there. And the culture's not happy, and the customer's not happy. So again, I wonder if we look at that and we'll end up getting that back someday, or be able to rebuild on it, what it looks like. But it was a great contract, a great job, but when they're not willing to see the partnership involved in this, and what we bring to the table and what we don't, when it's all about numbers, if you're looking for the lowest bidder, we're not your customer. I mean, we're just really not your customer or your vendor. To be it, because in the wire, we want to make money. We want to be able to survive. We want to be able to up our employees and do things that we're looking for. We're not looking for a job. We're looking for this company to be our I don't know if the word legacy makes it, or it's just where we want to be in our life. But we don't need to take on something to make no money. I mean, if you're doing those jobs, and we've talked about this in the industry for quite some time. Yeah, you're owning your job. That's all you're doing. You have a job. You might as well go work for somebody else and have less liability and less things and more freedom. When you're in your own business, it's funny, as everybody's like, "Oh, you're so lucky. You work for yourself." I don't work for myself. I work for 12, 15, 1,800, 2,000 people. And every one of them has an idea of how I should run that company and how I should do things, and that should be done this way. And we try to take the best of the best. And it'd be sometimes nice to just have one boss. I mean, it would just have one boss that tells me what to do and show up to work and do it. But I'm not wired that way. But